Hello, all you spooky friends. Welcome to another episode of Storytime with the Scariest Podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace. This is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And today we're here to read you folks some homegrown horrors. Adam, why don't you tell us what those are?
A homegrown horror is a story that one of you wonderful folks has sent to us and said, hey, you can go ahead and read this. And it's supernatural, spiritual, spooky, creepy, sometimes coincidental, sometimes, I don't know, true crime, sometimes extraterrestrial. Robin and folks had a story like that, and they said, you know what? I want to send them my story. Where could they send it to?
You can send it directly to our email if you like, storytime@scaryish.com. You can also go to our website, which is, you guessed it, scaryish.com. There's a contact us page. You can fill out that lovely form there, and it gets sent to us that way. We also have a lot of people that reach out to us via social media, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, things like that, and you can totally message us that way.
Indeed. So however you feel most comfortable reaching out to us, we would love to hear from you. We would love to share your story if you would like to send it to us. We have 4 stories we're going to read tonight. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I'll go first. Why not?
Yeah.
I feel like I don't usually, so.
You don't, so I'm happy to hear that. So I'm just going to sit back, I'm going to open my beer, and I'm going to listen. So let's do this thing. My burr.
Why don't you pop that before so that you can get that noise out of the way? Oh, thanks. Okay.
Some good beer ASMR. That's staying in the show. Let's do this thing.
Okay. This first email of the episode is from Layla on Facebook. So you folks can totally message us through Facebook. It goes, I just recently started listening to the podcast.
Thank you for listening.
3 hours ago, to be exact. What? That's crazy. I think that's one of the quickest times we've ever had an email where it's
a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah. I'm starting from the beginning, episode 2, reincarnation and time travel. Loving it so far. I don't know if anyone can still share stories. Obviously you can because we're reading it now. And I don't know where to go to do this, but if blah, blah, blah. Okay. You sent it on. No, because it's just like, I don't know where to send this. You obviously sent it to Facebook. You're fine. I've told a lot of my family this, but doesn't matter what I say. No one believes me. The first house I remember living in was in a small town in Parma, Michigan. Never heard of that. That's kind of cool. New place. It was a very old farmhouse. No one in my family remembers anything from this house, only me.
Uh-oh. Memory loss? It's
No.
kind of scary.
All they say was it was a house that we lived in, nothing special. Obviously, you have special memories of it, which is why it makes it memorable.
Maybe it's a
for
full
you.
email where it's like, and that's it. Nothing special at all. Thank you for listening. Bye.
When I was 4, maybe younger, I have things that I remember as if it just happened. The first thing was my brother, William, and I were building blocks in our second living room. Our parents were either working or drinking, so my oldest brother, Nathaniel, watched us. He's 10 years older than me. As me and William were playing, I heard Nathaniel calling my name, so I go out to him. He was in our first living room. He didn't understand why I was out there because he didn't call my name. Right after I found that out, William came running to me because he wondered why I was calling his name, but I didn't. That's creepy.
Yep.
So all the siblings are like, you called my name, I didn't call your name, he called my name, but the other guy's like, I didn't say anything.
I get really strong, like, paranormal / like detective movie vibes from this. Like, a lightning bolt is going to flash through the windows, and all of a sudden the lights are going to go out, and they're going to come back up, and one of you is going to be dead, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, to me, it's like
Clue.
Trying to separate you so that it can do bad things.
But didn't it bring them all together by calling their name?
Well, so they thought that their older brother was calling them, so they went to the older brother, but then the younger brother was like, I heard you call me. Oh, well, yeah, you're right. So then it's all like everybody's
they're being drawn together, and I think it's so they can witness a murder. I hope not. That would be really fucked up if that happens.
Right when me and William were going to go back and play blocks, I looked past Nathaniel because there was a room back there, which was my room, with lovely French doors, and noticed someone walking out of my vision. So it's like a stranger, shadow person.
Stranger danger.
Yeah, stranger danger. The next story was that every night I would wake up in the middle of the night to go to the restroom. It seemed like the same time every night. On one specific night, I went to the restroom, came back to my room, and went back into bed. I had a bunk bed, but I slept on top, and on the bottom we took out the bed part, and all my toys were down there. It's kind of cool. I every time I see those bunk beds where there's a desk underneath, I'm like, that is a sick setup.
Must be fucking nice.
I heard one of my toys going off, but it was too late for me to get back down, so I was just going to find it in the morning. I wake up, and that was the first thing I went to do. I went through all my toys, and that's when I noticed my parents were too broke to afford electronic toys. Not one of my toys could make noise. That's creepy.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
So it's like something was talking down there or making some sort of noise. I
or
wonder.
the toys became sentient. They had some adventure to go on in the middle of the night, like in Toy Story or something like that.
The last story happened at night too. I was getting up again at the same time to go to the restroom. I climbed back into bed, and for some reason that night I just could not sleep well. When I looked down into my room, probably like laying in bed and looking around, still pitch black out. My room was dark, but whatever the thing was, it was darker. I saw what looked like a man just standing there, their back towards me. It was facing my mirror. Oh, it's just that scene. You probably don't see what I see in my head, but I see this thing just staring into the mirror with its back to it, but you see their back and you see their face in the mirror.
Okay,
you know?
I see what you're saying.
That's what's freaking
like
me out
Harry
right
Potter
now.
and the Philosopher's Stone, where you see Voldemort's head in the back of Professor What's-His-Face Quill.
Yeah.
Okay, got
exactly.
you.
Which is also terrifying for me when I was a kid. At first, I thought it was my mom, but she was a 911 dispatcher and worked third shift. And then I thought it was my brothers or my dad, but this thing was way too tall to be them. I just said it was my dad, so I didn't freak myself out. To this day, I still don't know what that thing was.
Oh, the lies we tell ourselves to not get scared.
Thank you so much for sending that in. Sounds like you definitely were the one that experienced all these weird things, or everybody else did too, and they don't want to talk about it.
Or they've blocked it out. Like,
Yeah.
we've had multiple people tell us before that they had a story where it was them and another person, and they both remembered it super vividly until one day that person was like, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Like, I don't remember any of that. I think Ralph had a story like that. And I think that just sort of happens. Like, people just shut it off or forget about it and decide they don't want to remember. So perhaps that's what's going on here. Perhaps you're sensitive and that's why you picked up on that stuff. But either way, thank you for sending us the story. And if you have more, we certainly want to hear them. So thank you one last time. All right, so I'm going to get into the next story of the show, and this one's subject is ghost-ish and UFO-ish in Vegas, which is pretty sweet, because that's where we are. It starts out like this. Hi, Adam and Robin.
Hello.
Hello. I'm a new listener, and I am so happy to have stumbled upon your show. Feel free to share these two tales on your podcast if you'd like. We would like, indeed. I took a trip to Las Vegas last week to visit two very good friends of mine who are getting married soon and just purchased a house out there. I am from Philadelphia. The day I got there, my friend wanted to give me a tour of the house and mentioned that the person who lived there last was an old man who had recently passed away.
Did he pass away in the house?
Right. I jokingly said something about his ghost. She paused and said, well, it's funny you mentioned that. My stomach immediately knotted up because I literally just started listening to your podcast about 2 weeks ago and then listened to about 5 episodes on the plane ride, so I was already a little on edge. She continued. Go ahead.
I'm just like, well, since you brought it up, let me tell you about this ghost of this guy. That
We weren't going to tell you about the entity you'll be betting
By
with,
the way, that's your room.
Since you mentioned it, and now they're aware that you know they're here. The email continues. She continued, when my mother-in-law came to visit, we were sitting on the back patio by the fire pit, and we both saw what seemed to be a shadow walking up towards where we were sitting. It looked like an old man with a hunched back. When we asked our neighbors about the previous inhabitants, they described an old man who had a hunchback. I tried to stay calm, but knowing I was going to sleep in a possibly haunted house kind of freaked me out. A few nights after she told me that story, there was a crazy windstorm. Those do happen here in Vegas. When the weather changes, especially when it's winter to summer or summer to winter, you just get these cold fronts that blow in or warm fronts that blow in, and the next thing you know, rather than getting a bunch of rain, it just gets super fucking windy, like 50, 60 mile per hour constant gusts.
We had to take the wreath off of the door yesterday because it kept knocking into the door and triggering our dog.
She was losing her fucking mind at like 1 a.m. It's so annoying. Anyways, so crazy windstorm. I woke up to a loud banging noise outside of my partially opened window. I was super scared and still delirious from being woken up in the middle of the night. I 100% expected to see a ghost. Eventually, the wind calmed down and I was able to fall back asleep. The next morning, I looked out the window to investigate. I saw that the string lights that my friends had put along the awning of their patio had fallen down in one spot, and that is what must have made the loud noise when the wind knocked them down. I am very happy it was not a ghost and definitely chuckled at how scared I was in the middle of the night. My second tale happened 2 days later as we were driving home from a day trip hiking in Utah. Backstory, I got super obsessed this year with aliens and alien podcasts. Shout out to Ryan Sprague's Somewhere in the Skies. Never heard of it. So, and have joked with my family that my number one desire in life is to see a UFO.
How is that your number one thing to see?
When I was a kid, my number one thing was wanting to see a tornado. Like, I really wanted to see a tornado because I thought it would just be so cool
You
to see.
tripping. Like, what?
I mean, you grew up in Texas, so, I mean, you see them all the time.
I did not grow up in Texas, actually. I grew up in Hawaii. We don't have tornadoes.
And then you went to Texas.
And then I went to Texas. And there were tornadoes that would happen, like, the next town over. And I'd be like, thank God that's not us, because we don't have a freaking cellar.
And you were in Texas in your younger days, too, like super young days.
Well, I was born there.
I was going to leave that part out, but cool. All right. My friend was driving the three of us home to Vegas, and I was absolutely spent from hiking over 10 miles that day. I was sitting in the backseat of my friend's truck on the driver's side, staring up at the beautiful moon and stars as we drove. As we neared the town of Mesquite, I blinked because I saw something odd hovering just above the highway. It was triangular shaped and flat and very dark, but looked like it was made of metal or plastic. There was a red light on one corner and a white light on another corner, and some smaller white lights along the edges. At first I thought, it's weird that someone is flying a drone this late at night, as it was close to 9:30 or 10 p.m. and pitch black outside. As we drove closer, it seemed too big to be a drone, perhaps 2 to 3 feet along each side. Also, it was perfectly still and not oscillating at all like most drones I have seen. It was right above the highway, right where a street lamp would be, which is what I thought it was after I ruled out the drone theory. But it was a little too high to be a street lamp, maybe 70 to 100 feet in the air, and none of the other streetlights looked anything like it. All I could do was stare and wish my eyes were not so tired. As we passed the object on the opposite side of the highway, I rolled down my window and stared intensely at it as we drove past. My friend asked, "You good?" And I said nothing. I was so tired that I thought my eyes must be playing tricks on me. But the more I think about it, the more weirded out I feel. I didn't even tell my friends what I saw until the next day when we were 4 mimosas deep at brunch, and they asked why I'd rolled down the window randomly on our silent drive home. We all laughed about it, and I am still not convinced I saw a UFO, but if I did, I'm a little upset that it wasn't more obvious and that an alien didn't wave at us or at least abduct one of us.
Weather balloon.
Weather balloon, there you go. Explained.
I mean, that's everyone's excuse, right? Is that UFOs are just weather balloons.
Anyways, just thought these were funny occurrences to happen in 1 week in your hometown. Thanks for your awesome show. Keep it real, Jules. Thank you for sending that in,
Jules. Thank you so much.
I will say, when you really, really want to see something and you see any sort of object that you can't immediately identify, your brain sort of shapes it into what you think you're seeing, i.e. the Battle of Los Angeles. So you see something in the sky and you're like, yep, it's those Japanese invading. It's like, there was nothing there.
The thing with Vegas is we have an Air Force base.
Yes.
So lots of planes fly a lot. We also have hot air balloon, fairs, meetups here, where some weekends it's just chock full of air balloons, hot air balloons.
Hot air balloons.
And so there's just a lot of stuff in the sky. A lot of the time. So who knows really what you saw? It could have been anything. It could have been a UFO, and it was just like, let's hide among all this stuff.
Among us, they were imposters. I would rule out hot air balloon because those usually go at dawn. I don't think they like to fly at night, so you don't hit power lines.
Yes.
But it is a very curious thing to have witnessed. You should have said something to your friends and been like, "Hey, what is that?" And then they would have let you know. I had friends call me because they were freaking out. Like, we see a UFO right now, and I was like, describe exactly what you're seeing. And they're like, it's a bunch of lights super high in the sky, and they're all moving in unison.
Was that when it was Elon Musk?
It was the Starlink thing. And I was like, all right, let me look into it. Let me see if there's any sort of activity going on over there. It's like, it sure was. It was a bunch of satellites getting aligned for the Starlink thing, which will assuredly be a fucking disappointment. So,
in any
case, it's supposed to bring internet to like remote areas of the world.
Oh, okay.
But it's like satellite internet. It's not going to be, everyone thinks it's like, I'm going to upload at 1 billion K per second. No, you're really not, friend. Like, it's going to have to upload to space and then back down to wherever it's going and then back up and then back to you. So it'll provide internet to remote areas of the world, which is great. But it's not going to be like, fuck Cox, I don't have to stream through them anymore. Like, I'm going to sign up for Elon's internet. Like, no.
Okay, so I was watching Kingsman yesterday or the day before yesterday.
So you think Elon Musk is just like the bad guy from
No.
Kingsman?
There's a point where Samuel Jackson calls up a guy named E. Is E Elon Musk?
I Googled to try and find out who E was, because Kingsman's based off of a comic book series, and it's apparently some other bad guy.
Okay.
That's like yet to be revealed.
Gotcha.
Or it hints at something else, but it wouldn't shock me if it was like also a nod to Elon Musk.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
Who knows? But yeah, thank you for sending that in.
Yeah, thank you.
Extraterrestrial stuff is always super, super interesting. So before we move on with the show, let's go ahead and move into our wonderful ad break. So anyone who listens knows at this point, we are currently in a partnership with Manscaped. So head over to manscaped.com, check out their products. If you find anything you like, you can use code SCARYISH, all caps at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Pretty sweet. Not bad, huh?
Yeah, and it is up at the end of the month, so definitely get your order in. I mean, Black Friday, right? Today's Friday.
If you don't know what to get for someone for Christmas, just go and check this out, because there might be some good stuff. We've had people say that they use it on their pets. We've had people say that they use it themselves, even if they're not a man for Manscaped. But the Lawnmower 3.0 is a wonderful trimmer for super sensitive skin. It's 100% advertised as like, trim your delicate areas, your ball sacks, your lady balls, your what have you. And they last forever. This was sent to us to start this, I think, the middle of October. We never charged it.
And it still runs.
It's still full charged right now. And this thing would decimate my goatee, which is why I'm hanging on to it and not handing it to Robin.
You don't want me to shave maybe
no,
this off?
I really don't.
Just shave right here?
It's probably going to go anyways, but I'm just pointing out that it's a really reliable product. And for people that have to trim, it's a necessary thing. So check stuff out, manscaped.com. Again, code SCARYISH at the end.
20% off and free shipping.
Indeed. So go do that. All right. So before we move into our next story, we are going to take a really quick commercial break. And we're back.
All right. So the next email here begins. Hi, Robin and Adam.
Hello.
My name's Erica, she or her, and I just started listening to your podcast after a coworker recommended it.
Shout out to your coworker, and shout out to you. Thank you so much.
I've been bopping back and forth between binging the Storytime episodes. They're oddly comforting during quarantine because they feel like sitting around the campfire, like vampire, just with campfire, trying to spook each other, and binging your regular episodes. I'm only on episode 40, so I'm trying to refrain from putting my 2 cents in, since I'm sure anything I have to say has been said by now. But seriously, I lived in San Francisco for 10 years and never knew that story about Stowe Lake in Golden Gate Park. What the fuck? Robin, I am obsessed with your Etsy and I'm planning to grab some pieces when my next paycheck hits. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everybody who ordered. You guys are absolutely amazing. Adam actually reminds me a lot of my older brother, whom I love dearly and is a great guy, but when we were kids, he would threaten me by saying things like, shut up or I will fart in your mouth next time and fall asleep on the couch, or fall asleep next time you fall asleep on the couch. Sounds like a brother thing to say.
I say that to Robin every night before bed.
No. He just does. He doesn't threaten me with it. He just does it. It would disgust our mother and absolutely crack me up. Adam definitely gives me the vibes that he was or is that guy as well, and I am here for it.
Actually, there's no technical about it. I am the younger brother, so I had those threats given to me when I was young.
But I digress. I was listening to a Storytime episode where you talked about asking the elders in your life their stories. To the youths, seriously do this. It is amazing. And it reminded me of this creepy shit that happened. Feel free to share. When I was in college, I lived in an older Victorian-style house in San Francisco with 3 roommates and a #Omen baby, black kitty named Gus. It was a house that had been split into 2 apartments. The top floor was one and the bottom floor was the other. We lived on the top floor, so to set the stage, you would walk in and up a narrow staircase to a big open living room. To the left was a long hallway with bedrooms, a full bathroom, and a big open kitchen that had a swinging door that led back to the living room. Those kind of freak me out too.
Swinging doors?
Yeah.
You would not have made it in the Old West.
Nope. In the hall, there was also a half bathroom that we called the airplane bathroom because it was in what I can only imagine, what used to be a coat closet and was tiny and dark. We had been living there for about a month when weird shit started going down. All of the haunting greatest hits. Light flickering, swinging door swinging on its own, disembodied footsteps climbing the stairs at night, Gus losing his kitty shit over nothing. You know, the usual.
Cats are bizarre creatures, and they'll do that regardless, but it's definitely scarier when there's stuff going on in the house.
Cats are weird, though, because our cat will come in here, she'll meow at you, you reach down to pet her, and she sprints away like you're... It's like,
what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. It's like, why are you meowing at me if you are going to run away when I acknowledge your existence? The most unsettling was the pace that you would hear when you were in the airplane bathroom, and only from that tiny bathroom. It sounded like super heavy footfalls that would gradually speed up until it sounded like running, and usually happened late at night when you were the only one up. This progressed over several months, and my roommates were convinced that our place was haunted, but I was very skeptical. After all, there was a woman who lived in the unit below us who was a raging twat waffle and was up at all hours of the night. I assumed the footsteps were her, and the weird stuff that happened was just old house physics. That's a thing, right? However, I was pretty cool with the landlord, and I spoke to him about the lights, which he checked out and said everything was running perfectly. I also mentioned...
Landlords sometimes do say that just to be full of shit so they don't have to do any work, but... I'll let you keep going.
I also mentioned that the neighbor was an asshole. She was most likely on drugs, which doesn't make a person an asshole, but she would yell racist slurs at me when she heard me speaking Spanish, and that does make a person an asshole.
And a twat waffle.
It definitely makes you an asshole and a trot waffle.
You're a thought waffle is what you are.
Oh my God. He told me that she was in fact terrible, but had moved out 2 months prior, and they were cleaning the place to rent it again. So naturally, I called my mommy immediately because I was convinced a killer was squatting in the unit below us. I explained the situation and poked fun at my roommates for thinking it was a haunting. She said, "That's so weird." And I replied, "Right?" Thinking she meant that it was weird that they were convinced it was the ghost since they obviously don't exist. Then she says, "Oh no, I meant it's weird that you don't think it's haunted since you used to talk to your Nana all the time as a kid." Insert record scratch here. Friends, my Nana died in 1982. I wasn't born until 1989. This woman who calls herself my mother goes on to explain my imaginary friend as a kid. That is absolutely nuts.
It's earth-shattering when it's like, oh, you don't remember doing this when you were younger?
Oh, there's a movie, Paranorman. Have you ever seen that one?
Nope.
It's a Tim Burton-esque movie where it's stop animation looking, stuff like that. But the main kid, Norman, in the beginning, you see him sitting in the living room. He's watching a scary movie or something like that. And his grandma sitting on the couch knitting or whatever. And she's talking to him, asking questions about the movie, things like that. And then she tells him to tell his parents to turn the thermostat up or down or whatever because it's too cold. And so he goes to tell his parents that. And his parents are like, "Your grandma's been dead for X amount of time. Like, stop pretending that you're talking to her." And that's what this reminds me of. It's like, you don't remember talking to your grandma? Hello. It's just crazy.
Now I feel like I need to watch this because it apparently has something to do with what was going on. I'm wondering what else happens after they realize this. This revelation's got to be just redefining of the character.
I grew up speaking Spanish and English, but when I started daycare, I would mostly babble in English when I was playing at home because that is what I spoke most of the day. One day, my mom heard me carrying on half a conversation in Spanish. After she overheard this a few times, she finally asked me who I was talking to, and the scene played out something like this. "Mom, who you talking to, baby?" "Me, the nice old lady." My mom's internal monologue probably, "Bitch, what?" "Mom, what lady?" Me, pointing across the coffee table. "She's right there, mama." Fuck. If my kid did that, I don't even know what I would do. I'd be like, "Oh my God."
Like, okay, cool. And I just pick my kid up and set them outside and be like, play outside for a while. And then I'd be like saging the house and calling priests.
That's terrifying. 4-year-old baby me then goes on to describe exactly what my mom's dead mother looked like and that she had told me to call her Nana. It should be noted that there is only one photo of my grandmother because my mom lost most of her family photos in an apartment fire. So she kept it safe and I had never seen it at that point. My mom kept this to herself because my dad was super religious and didn't want to freak him out or make my Nana leave. She was convinced it was actually her mother because she always made me so happy and calm, and I would know things that I shouldn't. Like when I told my mom how my Nana would make her watch my Tia until the day she came home, and my mom had cut off one of her pigtails while playing hairstylist because my Tia was quote-unquote her doll.
Wow.
You know what's funny? I think siblings just do things to each other like that just because there's some type of sibling rivalry or something like that. Because my sister, my younger sister, when I was younger, At one point, she took a comb. She took a comb and twisted all my hair up into it, and I could not get that comb out. I'm sitting there crying, and my mom was like trying to detangle it, and I was just afraid she was going to cut all my hair off as a kid. Oh my God. I just think sometimes siblings do these crazy things because either they don't realize that they're doing it or like a bad thing, you know?
They don't realize how bad it's going to be. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing and not think about the repercussions of my actions.
As I grew older, I stopped talking to her, so my mom just assumed I, quote, grew out of seeing ghost things, end quote. Cut to me on the phone in my early 20s getting monster chicken skin and thinking, what the actual fuck? She said if whatever is in my apartment keeps bothering me to tell her and ask my Nana for help because she's probably still around. That's so nice. It was like acknowledging that I had had experiences before and stepped the activity up in our place because all of a sudden shit got wild. The cabinets would slam when we were all in the living room. Gus would go from adorable meows and purrs to hissing at corners before hauling ass out of the room to hide under a bed. Also, from time to time, we would hear each other in the apartment even though we were home alone. For instance, I was getting ready for work one day when everyone had class, and I heard one of my roommates calling from the living room. She had just left, so I assumed she forgot a key or needed bus fare or something. I said, what? But she just kept calling my name. She has a super distinct voice, and when she calls out, you know it's her, even in a room full of people, which made it even more chilling when I walked out into the living room and I was the only one home. Then I would leave. I'd be like, no, I need to leave. This is terrifying. I can't be here alone.
Find a new place. Sorry, guys.
We continued to ignore it and went about our questionable millennial early 20s existence. Namely, sneaking booze into the movie theater and getting drunk at midnight showings. Vodka pairs perfectly with white cherry icy, in case you were wondering.
Wow.
We did this at the Paranormal Activity midnight showing because we were obviously morons who live in a goddamn haunted house and love to tempt fate. I didn't do much drinking because I had an 8 a.m. lecture the next day, but my roommates got to sleep in, so they got pretty toasty. Remember that scene in the movie, the first movie, where all the cabinets flew open and it was creepy as hell?
Second movie.
Was it yeah, it's,
I've seen them so many times.
No, is it the second movie?
It's the second movie. Trust me.
Yes, you're right.
Because there's not a lot of scenes that actually
It's in the other house.
Yeah, there's not a lot of scenes that get shot in the kitchen in the first movie. It's typically like the bedroom.
Well, these drunk motherfuckers waited for me to go to bed and opened all the cabinets in the kitchen. Oh, that's fucked up.
That's so funny.
No.
That's a good joke.
So they opened up all the cabinets in the kitchen so I would shit myself when I woke up first and found them in the morning. It worked, and the next morning when I woke up and went out to start the coffee maker, I screamed. I went around and closed all the cabinets, making sure to slam them to start my roommate's hangovers bright and early. Then I turned around and went to the bathroom to get ready for class. I was in the bathroom for 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds tops, before I realized I didn't have a hair tie so I could wash my face. I opened the door to go get one for my room. I passed the kitchen and all of the cabinets are open again. Maybe it was my roommates again, but this was a fairly large kitchen with more than a dozen cabinet doors, and they would have had to move inhumanly fast to open them all up and get back into bed without me hearing it or seeing them. Needless to say, I freaked out and went and sat on my bed for a minute before I remembered what my mom said. I sat there and in Spanish said, Nana, I don't know if you're here or if Mom is full of it, but if you can, please help me. What I felt next could only be described as the feeling of getting into a warm bath after a long day with achy muscles. Just warmth and relief. Maybe I was self-soothing and I made that shit up. Or I was projecting because I wanted so badly to feel comforted, but it felt like safety. I gathered my courage and went about my day, but not until after I called my mom and asked her to tell me how to get rid of the ghost. My mom sent me holy water from a cathedral in Mexico because it works better, apparently, and some of those saint candles with the Virgin de Guadalupe on them to help ward off whatever was in our house. We ended up sprinkling holy water around and smudging the apartment because when in doubt, sage it out. Fuck, that's such a good saying. When in doubt, sage it out. Okay. Not much happened after that could not be explained, but I would often dream of my Nana in that apartment, and I am definitely less of a skeptic now. I am so grateful that my Nana, who by all accounts was an absolute badass of a woman and an amazing single mom, still has my back from beyond the grave. Moms, am I right?
It's adorable.
Sorry the story was so long, but thanks for reading it, and thanks for making the pod. Maybe next time I can send some of my mom's stories. She has tons from when she worked in a hospital, and even a La Llorona sighting!
Yes, please.
Much love, and keep on creeping on. P.S. To my knowledge, my brother never actually farted in my mouth, but the threat was enough to deter annoying behavior. We are both in our 30s, and he still threatens me with flatulence. Yes, he's usually drunk when he does it. Yes, our mother still hates it, and yes, it still cracks me up. Thank you so much for sending that in. That is so freaking funny. It's such good stories. Thank you so much. I definitely got a chuckle out of a lot of it.
Yeah, that was excellent. And absolutely talk to the elder people in your life and ask them what their stories are. And I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to the person who wrote the email. Send in your mom's stories. We absolutely want to hear them, especially the La Llorona sighting. I'm super curious to see what that's about.
Too.
So thank you one more time. That was fantastic. All right, so I'm going to move into my last and the last story of the show. Subject is sleepwalking/talking. Starts out like this. Hello, Adam, Robin, and spooky friends.
Hello.
Hello, and all the spooky friends yell hello wherever you're at, even if it makes you look crazy. You can read this on the podcast. My name is Carly, and I'm 20, and I'm from Utah. The day I'm typing this is Halloween Eve 2020, so happy early birthday, belated by the time you read this, to Robin and my dad.
Aw, nice.
I first off want to say how much I love this podcast. I found it on Spotify. Shout out to Spotify. It's actually written in the email. And I've been listening since the beginning of 2020, maybe the end of 2019, so pre-corona. I'm all caught up on Storytime to episode number 142 and currently on episode 97 of normal episodes. I'm the person who shared the supposed Ted Bundy cave on the Facebook group. Okay, I kind of remember that. And when I saw that Robin reacted to the post, I lost my shit and had to announce to my friend Shandon about how excited I was, and now he too listens to Scarish because of that freak out.
Nice.
We are on all of our social medias all the time. I think I post to the Facebook group more than anyone else, but maybe like Christina. Christina posts a shit ton of stuff, and it's always super good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go to post something, I'm like, wait, check the group. She might have already posted. I'm like, God damn it, because we post from the same sources. So, yeah, we're definitely all over our social medias. Now that we got that out of the way, I have two stories about my brother sleepwalking/talking when we were younger and him scaring the living crap out of me. First story. So I'm about 9 or 10, and my brother is about 5 or 6 when this happened. My grandpa, aunt, and uncle came down one winter from Oklahoma to come skiing and stayed over at my mother's house at the time. My aunt was my brother's and my favorite person at the time, and we forced her to sleep in my brother's room where we had a bunk bed. My brother was sleeping on the floor, and I was laying in the bottom bunk with my aunt talking to her. All of a sudden, my brother just randomly stands up, facing towards us with his eyes closed, just standing there. He didn't move for a solid minute, and it really started to freak me out, especially when my aunt tried asking him what was wrong, and he did not answer. He then starts to lift his right hand and aggressively swing his hand like he's trying to hit something.
What?
He then starts yelling at me because I wouldn't let him win the Wii tennis match. My aunt was dying with laughter, and I was still slightly scared, but now getting mad because he was mad at me. My aunt eventually got my brother to fall back asleep, and when he woke up the next day, he didn't remember anything about what happened. As someone who used to sleepwalk and sleep talk, it fucking sucks being told the next day what you did. And the only time I've ever experienced that outside of sleepwalking or sleep talking is getting blackout drunk. And getting blackout drunk is infinitely worse because you have no control over what you do, but you're still kind of sentient. So you might have flashes. And after it happened to me, I was like, I never want that to happen again. Because it was like the sort of anxiety and fear that I had when I was a kid when someone would tell me you did this like when you were sleeping. Or I'd wake up and it wasn't the place where I fell asleep. So I feel bad because I'm sure in the morning when you guys were like, do you remember doing this? It was so silly. Your brother was like, no, because that's how I used to be when I was a kid. All right. Last story. I believe I was 13 and my brother was 10. We now lived in a different house that creeped me out since the day we moved in, with it being old and kind of in the middle of nowhere. I never liked the house because my room was in the very back with no door, near the back entrance of the house. The back door locked from the outside, but still could be opened from the inside. This will come into play in the story. I had my bed in the corner of the room next to where my door was supposed to be, and by the window. I ended up staying up late one night playing on my iPod and probably found a creepy video on YouTube and stupidly watched it. It's funny because you were 13, you were playing on your iPod when watching YouTube. I'm like, When I was 13, I had a 19-inch TV that was heavier than any TV that currently exists.
I feel like I had that when I was fucking 20-something.
It's like, I kept that TV until I got a job and I was able to buy a 27-inch. I'm like fucking bawling. The monitor I'm watching the stream we're streaming right now with is 34 inches. And I'm like, how did I fucking survive on 19 inches? Phones are bigger than
when
that
I
now.
was 20, I had one of those big cube TVs sitting on a box. I didn't even have furniture. I literally slept on a mattress on the floor and my TV was on this box. It was like, so man, when you were first out on your own and adulting and shit like that, you're like, oh, this is so ghetto, but okay.
But I'm on my own. What's up?
All right,
let's get back into your story. Sorry, that just took me down a, oh my God, I'm so old tangent. All right, so you're 13. You're watching creepy videos on your iPod. All right. I was scrolling through Facebook, trying to make myself less scared and try and fall asleep. I heard faint crying coming from outside my window and froze. I tried to ignore it and pretended that I heard nothing until I heard knocking and more crying coming from the living room window, which scared me even more. I could hear the crying make its way almost around the whole outside of the house. I tried even harder to ignore it because I wasn't mentally prepared to see a ghost at the age of 13. I heard the crying at the front of the house again and got a little brave to walk to my mom's room to tell her about it. I saw something go past the living room window, still crying, now saying, Mom. I run past my brother's room and noticed his door was open and he was not inside. I get upstairs to my mom's room and wake her up, saying I heard crying outside and that I think it's my brother, but not 100% sure it is because for all I know, it could still be a ghost child and I'm sending my mom out to investigate it. As me and my mom are slowly walking back downstairs, we hear banging on the front door and someone screaming out, Mommy! My mom rushes to the door and finds my little brother on the front porch crying his eyes out. So somehow I didn't notice my brother sleepwalk past my room and walk out the back door and get locked out. He says he woke up outside and couldn't open the door and got scared and started to cry.
Aww.
I honestly don't think I was able to fall asleep that night because I was so scared about the possibility of seeing a ghost child. Thank you for reading my stories. Hopefully they weren't too long. I'm typing this out on my phone so it looks super long. Also, sorry for any spelling mistakes. Don't worry about it. I tried my best to proofread, but dyslexia is a bitch. I will eventually send in another email about the time I think I had sleep paralysis, because if I included it now, it would definitely be way too long. Until then, keep on creeping on and talk to you later.
Send it in.
Yeah, go ahead and send it in now because you've had your first story read. We definitely want to hear about it. I never exited the house as a sleepwalker. I think I had one instance where I was trying to go out the front door, but it was locked and I couldn't make it out. So I was always terrified because my backyard was like half an acre and then cornfield for miles.
Imagine waking up in the
I always thought I was going to wake up in the cornfield.
Have you watched Donnie Darko? You must have watched
I've watched Donnie Darko,
where he wakes up so far away from his house the
Yep.
first time.
It's that movie's pretty fucking crazy. And that's
it is
definitely
so crazy.
one of the things when I watch, I was like, yep, this sucks. Like, I'm not going to forget this anytime soon.
Yeah, that movie is just so like a big old mindfuck. And then there's number 2
Never seen
about
the
his
second one.
sister. It is bad. It is not good. It tries to be so much like the first one, and it just can't reach that level of good.
The first one in general is just weird. I don't know if I would even classify it as good. It was just so odd when I first saw it. I was like, well, that's unique. And at the time, I was like, unique is more important to me than good. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because there's certain things about it where like, I don't fucking get it. You know? I don't understand that. Like, what the hell is happening here? So it's definitely odd, especially when you see like, you should watch Donnie Darko and Bubble Boy back to back and try and pretend they're like the same movie. Or maybe start with Bubble Boy. I think that'd be really fun.
What?
Too. I also like to point out Jake Gyllenhaal is an excellent fucking actor. And I always forget that he's both of those characters.
Yeah.
So, right on. Thank you so much for sending that in. Please send in the rest of your stories. That was amazing to read. I want to thank everyone who sent in their emails. This wonderful story time was made possible because of you, the listener or the viewer, sending in your story. If you have a story you would like to send, like so many people that sent in tonight saying, I have another story if you want to hear it, we absolutely do. So email storytime@scarish.com or go to our website, scarish.com, and click on Contact Us. If you fill out that form, it comes directly to us, or you can hit us up on any of our social medias. We have Facebook, which is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod, and Instagram is @scarishpodcast. We hope to hear from you, regardless of where you want to send it. We will be watching. It is Robin and I that runs those social media things. It's no one else. We don't have a social media manager or any of that shit. if you're talking to someone on those, it's pure 100% Colombian uncut Robin and Adam. So we hope it's not disappointing. Robin, for folks who would like to donate monetarily to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Right now, I have a Patreon merch sale for any patron exclusive merch that I've had in the past. So if you missed a keychain or a charm or something like that in the past, just go ahead and check that form out and you can fill that out if you're a patron. Tiers start at $1, and at $1 you get access to posts like those and also to ad-free episodes, which is absolutely awesome. You can also go to Ko-fi if you don't like the monthly donation thing. Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast is one-time donations, and all your folks' donations, they go to helping us upgrade the studio setup, help improve our audio, like getting matching microphones for once.
It makes editing so much easier. It's so much nicer now.
And so thank you so much to everybody who's made this podcast possible, period. We really couldn't be here without you and without the motivation that you folks give us by listening each week and sharing with your friends. You guys are absolutely awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much to everyone who sent in their stories. Thank you so much to everyone who will, to all the people that participate in the live streams, to all the people who just listen, to rates and reviews, all of it, to the ghost listeners who have listened to us and have never, ever interacted with our community. We still love you so much. So I do think that's everything we have for this story time number 146. So Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.